Grady Bonzel.
Here.
Dennis Sneeden.
Here.
Matt McKenzie.
Here.
Curtis Penrod.
Here.
Wally Henson.
Here. All right. Public comment? Here's there none. It's not officially on the agenda, but maybe we ought to welcome Curtis, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the board.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. Vacant building ordinance example, Dodge City, Kansas.
No, we were going to show the video. That was it. but we didn't talk with Josh. I was about to ask you, you probably haven't talked with Josh about that.
If you could send me the link, we'd be able to get this accomplished.
We ended up talking with Dodge City. They have a program on abandoned homes that takes a different route.
Okay.
Tell me what the link is.
It basically is, works with their land bank program, and they end up retrofitting
Dodge.
certain homes, about one home a year, one or two homes a year. So it isn't a huge amount.
Like DEV
But they have the
.org
contractors,
/
or a group of contractors that participate in it.
HS.
And
Apple Houston
they're
same.
able to do it for a lot less money.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a little bit volunteer, a little bit
Okay.
different things
We're ready.
at a little less rate. And they come up and they finish a home.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
CHAD, the Community Housing Association of Dodge City, is a
Stop it. Ready for you yet? Gotta make sure the sound is working.
Put it on caption,
Yeah.
we'll just read it. Why the president read it to us.
I can't read. I need pictures.
So you can dedicate somebody else.
Yeah, that's right.
CHAD, the community.
Okay. Sorry, I have way too many sound cards on this thing.
Just crank 'em off.
So it's a matter of making sure that I have the right one going to it.
turns on.
Oh, dang, that thing just wants to play.
It's ready to let us
Never
know.
play.
and they work with a community college also.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that would be a good program for our college, yeah.
CHAD, the Community Housing Association of Dodge City, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization created to address the housing needs in Dodge City. CHAD operates the abandoned housing program. The funding for this comes from the Moderate Income Housing Grant from the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. CHAD partners with the Dodge City Community College Building Trades Program to create additional affordable quality housing units.
College is really grateful to be a part of the project that we have with Chad. Building this house gives their students hands-on, real-world learning experience for the entire year.
Working with Chad is great. That's a good program because we get to improve communities and areas in town that need help, like this one we're doing right now. It's going to hopefully motivate people in the surrounding area to build better things as well and keep the area like a lot nicer and cleaner.
We're building a workforce at the same time that we're building a house. The city gets more affordable housing, moderate income housing, and we're addressing a big contractor and worker shortage by training our next generation. It's pretty rewarding to think about what we're actually doing.
These houses that we're building are doing parts of town that may need some improvement. We're helping to make the neighborhood look a lot better, feel a lot better, and hopefully other people will be motivated to fix up their houses after we're done here. I'm not just learning my trade, I'm part of something bigger. I'm really proud of all the work we're doing here in Dodge City. It's just an awesome program. This project isn't just about coming to school. That's what I love about it more than anything. It's not just going to school and learning something that I'm never going to use. It's something that's practical. And I'm proud of the work that we're doing on this house, and I'm proud of what I'm able to do for Dodge City.
Zach and I had a conversation with a couple folks from Dodge City as we were getting prepared for the meeting last month that we weren't able to have. They started this more than 10 years ago. So it's been going for a while. There's two parts. The new houses are done by the community college, just like our technical college, basically tries to do a home every year. But they also renovate abandoned homes. And they work with They had started out working with an interfaith, but then they created a nonprofit, which they mentioned in the video there, 501c3. So then it kind of transfers from the land bank to the nonprofit, and then it sells the home. They're basically, it's completely separate from that, from the land bank. The city pays for the economic development of it, but what it basically is the difference, what they sell the property for, and then they reinvest it into the next home. So they use MIH grant funding, and then they do some other things. And then Zach and I were talking about them, and we're trying to figure out when it would be possible for us to head down there and they would be glad to give us a tour of different homes and stuff to check into it. And if you guys would want to come along, or you want to set up a separate time, they're more than willing to show you different things that get involved with that. So they don't do low-income housing. It's affordable or moderate income is what they're trying to do. And they hire local contractors. There is volunteer. Some work as the volunteer. Mostly they hire out, though. That's from my notes from the conversation we had. And they always try to do a 3-bedroom. That was one thing. Whether the bedroom becomes an office or a separate room, that's what they try to do.
It's better for families.
They build and sell. They have a 1,300 square foot 3-bedroom with a crawl space. They don't try to do full basement because it adds too much cost onto the project. But they still end up close to $200K in cost. And it ends up around $230 to $250 is what they try to sell it for. Which in Dodge, they don't have as much of a problem trying to sell that type of property. They do get participation from, they've really worked well with Home Depot and ended up with a lot of materials from Home Depot for projects. So, and that's about all I have. I think they, over the 10 years or so, they've done 15 homes. That's what they came up with. So what's neat about it from what we were looking at is it's just one more thing that keeps occurring.
Right.
If you have the college build one home a year and you have another program builds a home a year, it's not a whole lot in any one year, but after a decade, if you have a couple dozen homes,
It's something.
that certainly helps. And especially in certain neighborhoods. Just like, I don't know if you guys have driven around Dodge City, there's certainly better neighborhoods and there's less than better neighborhoods. So, and for a good one, it would be trying to find the blocks to try to be able to do that. And
So how do they acquire properties? Is it through the sort of the same way we would do with our demolition program now? Or is there a way for like an owner to donate a property and get out from the tax liability sort of thing?
That's what the land bank comes into play for. So you have the property donated and it sits in the land bank. That way you don't have all the extra stuff that goes along with it because it's sitting in that land bank.
Yep.
Once Chad is ready for it, they then take it out of the land bank and give it to Chad, and that's when everything starts.
Okay.
And they've had pretty good success with people donating properties. And they have the enforcement program about trying to get the properties taken care of, kind of like what
Yeah, I
we're
can
doing
see
already.
like leading up to that with your enforcement program, but then that's a way if somebody like finds themselves in a bad spot but wants to try to do some good, maybe they could get out of it and.
Well, it's kind of similar to the house that occurred right when I started working here, which was up on Sherman, 326 Sherman. It was the next generation. They lived in Topeka. They didn't want to deal with the house anymore. So we were gonna tear it down, and they basically donated it to the city. Well, now the city's donated it to the college, and that's where that passive home's gonna be built next year. So, we've already been able to do it once. It's really a matter of how to get people to view it as a real option.
So would you need to like have a board or something, like, or people from the community, or would the college be in charge of it, or how would that, what's that look like?
We were starting to ask them questions about different, and I'm not gonna answer your question directly, because I think the 501c3, yes, needs a board and everything like that, but what we were trying to get is how they worked with their contractors
Okay.
to be able to get something accomplished. And yeah, they had to pay for some contractors, but then now some of it, a small portion of it's been volunteer, but how does that actually, and I think it's been a while since we had the conversation, I'm trying to remember different parts of it. But didn't they work with a particular contractor to be the project manager or the GC basically for the project? But more along those lines was trying to figure out how exactly that worked, because it seemed like that they were giving all praises to the contractors, and it seemed to be working fairly well to get something accomplished.
So I've had a couple discussions with a couple other contractors in town about similar things where we've talked about how could we give back to the community in some way. Is there a way to volunteer some work or, work for somebody who couldn't afford what we do normally, but do it as like community service. So I'm already thinking like, okay, I already know a couple guys and myself that we've talked about doing something like that. And I would volunteer time for a project like that for sure. So I think we could get other contractors on board.
I think you're right. I think the hard part's gonna be the plumbing aspect of it, unless we can utilize the college for a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the trades where we're really short on people are gonna be hard. They don't have time to volunteer. They can't do their paperwork already. Yeah, but maybe that's a way to leverage the college.
I think electrical, we won't have an issue with getting
Yeah.
time donated from multiple people on that side of things. Carpentry, that side, we're covered. It's gonna be the plumbing, cause they're already packed full.
Yeah.
Their schedule's full,
Yeah.
so they don't wanna keep working when they're got their one day off that they get, two
Yeah.
if they're lucky.
But yeah, having the tech college is a huge
Yeah.
piece that probably can help.
But, we have been talking the last several months about the vacant building and having some sort of registration, and then we come to find out through several communities that it really isn't implemented not wholeheartedly, or the one or two that did, there was definite pushback regarding it.
It was good on paper, but bad in practice.
And when Zach came across this, it seemed like just a different avenue.
My opinion behind it was we'd get a better response out of the community opposed to doing the registration program and getting pushback from that. I think this is more of a helping hand than a heavy thumb.
This feels like a lot more like we're trying to do something positive rather than add more regulation to somebody who doesn't want paper.
Yeah.
Less punitive. Yeah.
So, we just wanted to show that to you. We'll probably have an additional conversation with Dodge City, hopefully over the next few weeks. And we'll see where we go. I don't know what the next step will be to look at it. So, trying to put that together. And the ladies that were involved, one of the ladies was there from the beginning, and then now she's moved on to another position within Dodge City. And then there was the person that took over for her in oversight of that program, so.
I'm thinking about other stakeholders in the community that we probably should engage too. And so Kent and I, for you and I, we probably should put this on SCCD's agenda for discussion. So with SCCD, housing has been a huge discussion topic on our board there too. So there's probably an opportunity to partner there. I saw in the video they mentioned a couple programs to get funding dollars, so we probably should loop in SCCF and see what's
Mhm.
there. Thinking about Patterson and Hanson and what those foundations would have from money. So there's some community stakeholders that we should probably start discussion with as well.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, and not
Yeah.
so much stakeholders, but maybe volunteers, like
Yeah,
people in the church community and stuff like that. Probably want to do.
probably be willing to find labor
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Mm, even if it's just the kids,
Right.
paint goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the right track with something here.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
I really like it.
Yeah, I like it
You
too.
guys have a more positive response than I expected, so.
We just, it's a way to do both things, clean up things, get more housing and be positive, right? So, that's-
Yeah, and for Dodge City, one home a year, like I said, that's still a good thing. It's not gonna change, because we do have over 100 vacant lots, we do have over 100 homes that are not occupied.
I have something wrote down differently than you on that.
Do you?
I have they build 2 and renovate up to 3 or 4, but sometimes none depending on how the funding falls in for the new builds.
Yeah, they basically have one new build and one
Renovation.
renovation a year.
Still,
At least.
Yeah.
that would be more progress than we're making right now.
And
And there's still gonna be properties that we're gonna have on the demo list that aren't gonna be savable too. So, you add this on top of what we're kinda already doing, but maybe take a little, one of my concerns about always demoing everything is the city, it's a budget line item that, costs money. And then eventually those wind up on the tax sale and the city never gets to recoup any of that. Maybe this is a way to start recouping a little bit.
And plus, we got 4 commercial properties right now that
we're not talking about that.
that are probably gonna need addressed. And that's, all 4 of them are bigger dollars, or larger amount of dollars than a residence.
Yeah.
And actually, it would be more than the entire budget for the year. So it's gonna be difficult for the city to accomplish it, and then we won't be able to do as many homes as we have been. I know there's certain sector of the community that really is encouraged by that, but we got some, commercial properties are gonna become a priority.
You could buy the roadway for $100,000.
That's not a deal.
It's on auction right now till tomorrow.
Okay, anything else on Dodge City? More to come. Okay, moving on to number 4, revised parking standard requirements.
And for Curtis's sake, I'll just remind the folks on the planning commission, you ended up having strategic interviews with Community Matters way back at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. And then we had a joint meeting with the city commission and talked about what various things we should do with the city code. And she had over 3 dozen recommendations. And we've accomplished quite a bit within those recommendations. One thing we have not accomplished was dealing with parking. And we've talked about parking as we've done some of the other items within the city code, but we haven't addressed it directly. And this is just an introduction to the topic. It's not asking for any decision, but we included the information that Bart Cole with Community Matters had provided. Had basically included a listing of various items to look at, and then she had quite a few recommendations. And then there's 4 recommendations that were included in your packet that talk about parking. The parking, recommendation 25 was parking standards need to be updated. Remember, parking standards are minimum, so if someone wants more spaces, they can add more parking, but the following are too restrictive. Recommendation 26, residential dwelling parking spaces should be reduced. For example, an ADU, which we did an ordinance to create the ability to have an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. ADU should only be one space. A live-work unit should be one space. The number of required spaces should be based on unit size and/or number of bedrooms. Number of bedrooms gets kind of hard sometimes, but basically per residence. Recommendation 27 is generally parking requirements should be based on something that's easy to measure. And that's going to the commercial and industrial portions of the zoning code. For example, restaurant parking is based on the number of seats. Well, as soon as they open and they decide to change the layout just a bit differently, then all of a sudden you have a different number of seats than what you started with. And that's what's in our code currently. That's just an example. The private clubs and taverns from restaurants, one parking space for each two and a half seats, based on the maximum design seating capacity. Provided, however, that drive-in restaurants shall have a minimum of at least 10 parking spaces. I don't know what's special about that, but. Retail parking states the following: retail stores and shop, one parking space per 200 square feet of floor space, plus one space per 2 employees. Well, employees change all the time, and businesses change how many employees they want to use, or whether they can get employees. So, and then the other part of it is the administration of it. Who's going to investigate? Who's going to ask? We really don't have the staff capacity to spend talking to people about their employees or seating capacity.
Easy to do when they submit for permanent, but hard to follow up.
Yeah, once it's there, it's there. Yeah. And what, you're really counting the parking spaces when they open, and then after that, it really doesn't come up. I mean, even a year down the line, it's not even an issue. Only if 2 businesses are fighting, then it becomes an issue. And then recommendation 28, provide flexibility in how the parking spaces are provided, particularly in mixed-use districts. Allow an in lieu of fee if we have a parking fund for eventually having additional parking off of Main Street, for example. And then allow the parking to be provided within a reasonable distance from the use. Right now, our code says what, Zach?
For which?
How far parking spaces can be allowed? It's only 200 feet,
If
correct?
it's like residential dwelling unit, it's 200 feet. If it's another thing, it's 300 feet, and if it's another thing, it's 400 feet. But I can't remember exactly which one was
Multifamily,
which.
Not more than 200.
Which thing out, which thing?
Commercial was 300.
Yeah. So those are the recommendations. And then I included our current off-street parking and loading regulations just for easy review. But wanted to get some feedback from the commission before we staff tries to put something together for you to look at and discuss further. We didn't want to, we've had some discussion over the other code sections about the ADU parking and also parking for residential, but just wondered if you would be okay with that, reducing the requirement for, right now we have 2 spaces required for each residence. Which I also like to make a comment with the widest streets between Kansas City and Denver on our residential streets.
Yes.
But then we have 2 off-street parking spaces required for any house. Even though there's some houses that don't have it, but just what did you think of her recommendations?
I agree that we need to make it less restrictive. It feels like that's, she even said that in here, that, you know, these are minimums, so if somebody wants more spaces, more the merrier. You know, what do you, that's fine. But let's not make it a hurdle, you know. And if an ADU is small, you know, you would probably think they would, if they're gonna live in a small place like that, they probably only have one vehicle, or maybe not. So, you know, that seems to make a lot of logical sense to me.
Yeah.
The only thing is, does that include like boats and trailers and stuff like that?
You already can't leave those on the street.
Right, no. Okay, so. I just didn't know if that was, how that would fit in, so like if somebody had a truck with a trailer and they had an ADU, you know.
They got nowhere to put it.
Right.
Required parking.
A lot of times that, for a trailer, there's a lot of properties that works to have it parked on your property, and there's some that do not. It's just not a possibility. And I've been in communities that have two required parking spaces, and the trailer still is a problem. Just because it's, especially, we get a town that works pretty well for trailers because we're square.
Right.
On a
Yeah.
grid pattern.
Yeah.
But when you get into cul-de-sacs and everything else, it's,
Curves, yeah.
I mean, trailers don't work.
Mhm.
But there was the restriction, just like in this town, about not having trailers on the street unless they're attached.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't go into the calculation much of how many parking spaces as far as trailers. Now, as far as RVs or campers, that's just really up to the individual property owner. If they're, or boats, if they're gonna keep it on their property, then, you know, it's, do you have the parking space? And you'll still have to have,
All-weather improved parking surfaces.
yeah,
Right.
can't be parked on the grass.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that consists of 2 inches of 3/4 inch rock, or asphalt, concrete, excludes grass, carpet, cardboard. I can't think of what the other 2 were. Hey. It was basically what everybody tried while they were trying to enforce it, so they had to keep adding it as a knot.
And then the other recommendation about the, doing the math on, like, restaurants and that sort of thing. I think we just gotta figure out a way to make that easy to,
I think we could do that just like some of the other ones where it's based off the square footage of the building.
I like that because you can't change the square footage of the building very easily, but you sure could change the number of seats in a restaurant.
Or if it changes occupancy.
Yeah, right, but the square footage stays the same. That makes more logical sense.
That'd probably fit better for like, retail stores and stuff like that
Right,
too, and
yeah.
churches and.
Yeah, then it's all kind of the same.
Right.
You know, no matter what your use is, we measure it the same way for everybody.
Exactly.
our current code is rather interesting as far as page 3 of 5 of the Word document that we included in the packet for you. It has business, commercial, industrial uses. You know, some of them are per square foot, and then there's some like bowling alleys, 5 parking spaces for each lane. I don't know how. Well, there used to be 5 people on a bowling team. But,
They should carpool.
or the car wash, 3 holding spaces for each car wash installed, plus 2 drying spaces.
So we just need to include more bike racks or something.
So it's some of those. So if we would come back with something that tries to standardize among those categories, yeah, that would be what you guys are looking for.
I like that idea better.
Oh, the square footage requirement for, as an example, for the automobile washing stations, that doesn't make much sense.
That doesn't work, no, but.
Yeah, there's probably some categories that,
There's some nuance
there needs to
there.
be some categories, but like line iteming out every single thing and then they're all different that's a lot of administration.
Yeah.
I'm just reading through the requirements, sorry. The medical one makes sense, having it at 200 square feet instead of the 400 square feet. You're obviously gonna have more people there.
I don't see anything with schools in here. Is that totally separate?
No, it's down further. It's gonna be Letcher.
Oh, see.
High schools,
Yep.
colleges.
Okay.
And then elementary is different from
High school.
Probably because you have more people, more kids driving to school, right?
And the trade schools are different than the high school also.
Sure, okay, okay. I see.
Weird to me, there was no verbiage about traffic flow patterns or drop-off lanes for the elementary, or the high school, junior high for that matter, but there was for the little.
Oh, for the nursery school and daycare there is, but not for
Not for elementary.
elementary school.
Or high school. And
Right.
I would assume that's because those are usually located more in residential districts, not in a big open area with lots of parking and driving area. Not saying that they're designed perfectly right now, but
Is there anything else you guys would like to see?
For me.
And the one thing Barb wanted to emphasize in our conversation with her today, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
The recommendations for the changes in the parking are for, the reason why we're looking at this is to encourage reinvestment and reuse of the current structures, especially along our downtown corridors. And it's economic development. It's not, that's the primary reason. There's a couple other reasons to do this as far as administration use and everything else. But it's really to, one, to make it easier for people to redevelop certain properties. Because once a building has a certain type of use, if that use goes away, oftentimes it gets awful hard for the next owner to do something with that building. You know, that's 17th and Main is an example of that. Or other buildings, you know, just like the newspaper building on Main Street, you know, the next use gets awful hard. And also have the ease of administration. So we do it. But she wanted to emphasize that. Any discussion about this?
Well, and a lot of the stuff that I read and follow about how to revitalize your community, one of the things that they stress a lot is to don't create more parking. The more parking spaces and the more parking lots you create, that's less opportunity for economic development. People will find a place to park, make things walkable, that sort of thing. So
Right.
if we reduce the requirements for parking, you actually encourage economic development. Because people are not hung up on, well, I'd love to do that, but I can't
There's not enough.
Parking you
Yeah.
require.
Parking requirement.
Yeah.
Without-
So with that in mind and knowing, everything we're trying to do to, keep our community strong and encourage economic development, let's not make parking a hurdle. Needs to be part of the discussion for sure, but it shouldn't be something we can't get over. It shouldn't stop new business.
Okay. We'll try to come back with something.
Cool. Okay, moving on, reports. Grady, anything to report?
No, nothing to report.
Dennis?
No.
Curtis? No. Wally, any reports?
No, it's just a delight to go by some of these properties that are just a bare lot now. Although they tore the house down but left the garage 2 blocks north of where I live there. And I guess the garage was workable.
The garage inside structurally, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's completely solid. There was no reason to tear that building down, and that gives somebody the opportunity, or the current owners, to build a house on that property, and the garage is already there. That's 40, 50,000 that they're saving.
And the required parking's already taken care of.
Wally, anything else?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, nothing from me. Kent?
No.
Zach?
Not at this time.
Okay, moving on to minutes, so you gotta think back 60-some days. Everybody have a chance to look through the May 13th minutes, any additions, corrections? Ed?
Yeah, that's anything.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Move that we approve the planning commission meeting minutes of May 13th, 2025.
Okay, moved by Grady, seconded by Dennis, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay. Last but not least, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Moved by Grady, seconded by Matt, all in favor, aye? Aye. Thanks for the vote. All right. Quick and efficient.